Yo, welcome to another episode of Cloudy Courtside Chat. Man, we got a lot to digest, to dive into. Man, what a crazy week of basketball we had here. Regional finals are now over. We have our regional champs, and we know not only who's going to the state championships, but we also have the pairing. And we have some teams right here in East Texas that are still playing basketball, still going strong. Like we said, a lot to talk about, a lot to digest. Let me bring on my co-host, my mentor, my brother, Marlon Cloudy Jr. Yo,
Oh,
let's go, baby. Man, how was your weekend, man?
road tripping.
Road
tripping.
trip. How many miles you think you traveled this week?
1,000. A lot of miles in the car, a lot of time in the car, a lot of games watched, but definitely was worth. I'm gonna say the price of admission, but definitely worth our time in the gym. Got to see a lot of great players, a lot of great moments. Excited to talk about it. But that was it. That was it, man. The basketball, what we're going to be talking about. Things will slow down, after the season is over with. And we'll get back into the other phases of life. But right now, ball is life.
That's it, man. The whole month of March. The wives understand. The kids better understand. That's what March is. It's basketball if you're a part of this family. Something different I want to do in this segment. What is the craziest thing that you've seen or heard this weekend? We did a lot of traveling. We went a lot of gyms. We were around a lot of fan bases. And I just threw you on the spot right there. We didn't talk about this.
So I won't say the craziest, the most exciting, or the most extraordinary, or the most, I guess, unique thing that I've seen was Friday night. Booker T. Washington, and they have what I coin as a super fan.
Be different.
I heard a few people say his name. I forgot his name, but anybody from Houston, if you listen to this podcast, Silsbee, y'all probably know him by name. But he brought an extra dimension to that game that you don't really experience that too much down here in East Texas. We got our people, the Dusty Hortons.
Yeah.
He's center rider pride till he died. He's at every event. He's giving the referees issues. He's giving the teams and coaches issues.
Everybody. You got the Jamie Cartwrights.
You got those people. But he had his
different
whole sweatsuit. And you knew who he was rooting for as soon as you saw him.
Blue and yellow eye.
But the thing that I saw, in more detail was that sweatsuit. Every saying and quote that he said was already etched on that jumpsuit that he had on. Now that was a fun part. Most unique, like I say, thing that I've seen at a game in person. Definitely was entertainment in itself.
Yes, he was, man. Listen, we were at the regional tournament now. Regional tournament. And I heard a couple of fans saying that the coach needed to be fired. Can't win a playoff game and needs to be fired. Y'all, you won three. You won 3 playoff games to get here, and I'm pretty sure you all excited and happy then. But yeah, that was just my little. I won't go into depth, but that was the craziest thing I saw. All right, let's jump right into it, man. Let's start with 1A Region 4. And we had a matchup with Brookeland and Rock Springs to start off the night up here in Austin, Texas. We both took Brookeland, and Brookeland did prevail. The second matchup, Wells and Fayetteville. I took Wells. I had a rough night on Friday, guys. We'll go ahead and put that out there right now. Your boy struggled. I talked all that noise about I know, especially 2A basketball. I didn't even do well in that area. But you picked Fayetteville, correct?
I did.
All right, so you got the matchup that you thought we would get with Brookeland and Fayetteville.
Well, let's go ahead and rewind and talk about that regional quarterfinal game that they had to make
one that you went to.
Regional tournament. Um, we had a showdown between Brooklyn Wildcats and the Laneville Yellow Jackets. First, both programs, I'm not even going to say they had contrasting styles because you traditionally you hear about Laneville and they're up and down and they play fast. Well, Brooklyn wasn't out there playing style ball. Like they both had exciting teams, exciting players, and that game came down to the final shot. And we posted about the top performers, but for Laneville,
Mr. Ross.
they had they had a shooter who had a player that didn't play majority of the year. He had a heart condition, and so he couldn't play the majority of the year, and was finally able to play the last few games of the season. And he could really shoot the ball. So I would have liked to see him play a whole season and be in basketball form and shape those last few games, but he really shot the ball well. And leading into Mr. Ross, Jordan Ross, Jordan Ross is a hoss.
No, different.
we saw it. We saw him 3 times this year in person, and one of those times it was for a district championship, which they won the game. He didn't play the best, but he made big plays down the stretch. And I was like, okay, if he can do that on the back of a bad night, he got it in him. And then we were honored to see him put on a show down there against Timpson, and not just against Timpson, against Terry Bussey, who's the number one athlete in the nation. And Ross was giving Mr. Bussey everything that he wanted.
36.
So now he's shown, okay, I can do it after playing a bad game. I can do it against a very high level athlete, and now I get to see him in the third round of the playoffs. And he once again did not disappoint. And I feel like he put the team on his back. He didn't force the issue, but some other guys were not having the games that they normally have, and I mean he just went on an all around performance, and he showed the star power that he is. So Jordan Ross, his dad even, made a couple comments about our platform and, how much he appreciates what we're doing for East Texas basketball. And, he is a solid guy. So Jordan Ross, hats off to y'all. You did it right. Salute on a great season. But the Brooklyn Wildcats. My goodness.
Let's talk to us a little bit about Brooklyn, man. I've heard about them all year long. Of course, we've been doing our research with the platform that we have, and we got to see them a little bit at Holiday Hoops and the 2 sophomores, man. And apparently they're doing all of this without another sophomore stud. So, but talk about those 2 young players and what they did in that game last Tuesday.
So Landon Smith, man, I started cheering for him on the inside because about midway through the third quarter, he was, I want to say 8 for 8 or 9 for 9 from the field. I'm like, man, this is gonna be great, great content. Good. Like he's gonna finish 100% from the field. Like this is gonna be nice to talk about. But he came out lighting it up. And, we had heard about him early in the year. Plays with a team out of Southeast Texas for summer ball. And the coach, I knew the coach from back in the day, and the coach told me, he was like, I got a kid that I coach play for Brooklyn. He was at the Martins Mill game. He's like, scoring 30 a game. I was like, 30 a game from Brooklyn? So, we finally got to put eyes on him, and he didn't have his best game against Martins Mill, but just like Ross, I mentioned earlier, once I saw what he could do, you can see a player. Like if the shots are going or not, that's. But I could tell he was a ball player, and he showed up big time in this game. Made big plays in the first half, but his biggest plays in the second half and closing the game. I think he finished 0 for 5 down the stretch, but he made some big time assists because Laneville threw extra bodies on him, or he got down into the paint. And one of those he finished, but he had a couple dump offs that he showed, okay, he is a next level type of guard. because it's not just get to the paint, score, get to the paint, score, get to the paint, and force. Like, he's going in there and making the right play. So
right
it
basketball
was definitely
player.
impressed with his game.
No doubt, man.
And then you had Mr. I'm a coin the term Captain Morgan, K. Morgan, who, you look at him at 1A, he's supposed to be a big man, but he plays on the perimeter. And for a stretch of that game, both teams were kind of trying to find their footing, and Mr. Landon, he was still efficient. Like I said, he didn't miss for the first half and a half of a quarter. He was still efficient, but Mr. Morgan took over that game. It was a stretch where he was clearly, and you got Ross, you got the big kid from Lake, you got Smith. He was clearly the best player on the floor at one point. And, he was knocking down threes. At one point, I believe in that game, he was 4 for 4 from three, knocking down threes, offensive rebounds, finished with 22 rebounds in the game. 22 rebounds, not points. 18 points and 22 rebounds in the regional quarterfinal.
That's effort. That's want to.
Effort, want to, determination. Captain Morgan, I salute you, sir. I salute you, Cade Morgan. And I think he's a pretty good baseball player, too. So his year is not yet done. So I'm excited to see what he does on the mound, but was definitely impressed what I saw on the hardwood from him.
No doubt. Well, once again, shout out to Brookeland. Heck of a season. 1A, you better keep your eyes peeled because apparently they're bringing back a whole slew of these guys, and they're going to be ready to make some noise next year.
So I'm gonna add in Coach, that coaching staff. Every time I talk to him or asked him, like, "Hey, y'all having a phenomenal season," he always went to, "We got hardworking kids." Never wanted to take credit, but I told him, "You can have the hardest working kids in around, but you got to have some coaching to go along with that." And players don't typically play hard just naturally. So a lot of coaching goes into that, and Coach did a great job with the Wildcats, and excited, like you say, to see what they do next year.
Man, appreciate Coach for his support too. Always interacting on Twitter, and always advocating for his kids. After every game, win, lose, or draw, you can guarantee that you're gonna see a tweet from the Brooklyn basketball. That's what it's about. All right, moving on to 3A Region 2. Man, what a heck of a tournament we had here with 4 ranked teams. You had Paradise and Tatum matching up in the first semifinal, and then you had Ponder and Mount Pleasant Chapel Hill with the nightcap. And, man, we couldn't have got them any more wrong. We both took Tatum. We both took Mount Pleasant Chapel Hill, and we were both absolutely incorrect. Paradise and Ponder faced off, and Ponder is eventually crowned the Region 2 champ. Any takes you want to give there? Ain't much to talk about.
I just want to say, congratulations to the Tatum Eagles and Coach Carr and, Coach Bradley and that staff for the amazing year that they had. I know it's only good for one team in the end. So even the teams that get to state, like, if they don't win it, they're still going to have a sour taste in their mouth when the clock hit 000. But the season that Tatum had, hats off to them. And it's an overtime game. Like, it's a regional tournament. You didn't go in there and get blown out by 30. So you competed, had opportunities. Just ball didn't bounce their way. And same thing kind of on the other side with Coach Schmidt and the Red Devils. They just the other team was the better team on that day on the scoreboard, and that's part of the game. They are both veteran coaches. They both understand that it's still hard and hurtful every single year that you don't lift that trophy in the end. And the thing about Coach Schmidt is he's held that trophy up.
Yeah.
Coach Carr, he's been down the state. I haven't had that feeling, so I don't know what that's like. But definitely hats off to both of those coaches' programs. But like you said, Ponder Lions are moving on to state championships down in San Antonio, and we'll probably get to see them a couple times.
Yes, sir. 3A Region 3. And, man, we had some games on Friday night in this region. In the nightcap, we had two teams that we cover, and we told you on Thursday night that this was going to be a game. If you wanted to see some up and down, high-level basketball with elite guard play, then we knew exactly where you need to be on Friday night. And, boy, did they not disappoint.
I'm going to start by saying this. It's a tweet going around. It should be circulating like crazy. But it's a tweet going out there that somebody said, I don't normally do this, but do yourself a favor and go back and watch from this point, I think of the second half and overtime of this ball game. We listened. Yep. So we went back and we watched it, and my goodness. Y'all are going to get tired of people saying the name Kavian Bryant.
You better get used to it.
But you better get used to it. The young man had 31 points in the fourth quarter. That in itself, like if we stop the game and we stop this recording and that was it, 31 points from a freshman in the regional quarterfinals against a top 5 team in the state. Then start regional semis. That's it.
That's nuts.
But he wasn't done. You thought it was over? Mr. Bryant said, I'm just beginning. And he went on.
The best freshman in the state.
To score 19 more points in the fourth quarter to end. Oh, my bad. He didn't just score 19. He hit 3 threes in a row, one at the buzzer to send it into overtime.
Tough.
Ooh-wee.
You can't make some of this stuff.
50
ball.
50.
We literally just talked about somebody scoring 36 and how amazed we were. A few weeks ago, we talked about Jatire Moore dropping a 40 ball.
Mm-hmm.
And this young man, 50.
Not much more to be said.
And then 5 more in overtime, just for good measure.
Spike Lee had a commercial back in the day. Said, gave my beloved Knicks the double nickel.
Double.
And he gave him a double nickel.
Freshman, y'all.
So that's amazing. That's incredible. Like I'm excited talking about that young man. I'm excited watching that young man. There you
go. Ahead and give it to him. It's no way.
We got to present it.
Nobody else can get this. He only played one night. A lot of other people played 2, and a lot of other people probably still didn't score 55 points.
Yeah.
In them 2 games. So Courtside crown of episode 10 has to go to no other than the freshman who earned his nickname, Swish, Kavian Bryant. Congratulations, young man.
All right. Now, he did score 55, but we said he only played one game in a regional tournament. Do you want to finish talking about what the Kountze Lions did?
They rough. They rough. To give up 55 and be on the other sideline, man, I'd be like, okay, there's no way we won this game. But they have some guys of their own. So instead of having a one-man band, they spread it out.
Yeah, a 3-man band.
3 guys, 20 points apiece. And guess what? All 3 of them coming back too.
All 3 coming back.
My God, Region 3, it's gonna be nuts next year. But Mason Donald with 20, the freshman Mr. Lowe with 20, and of course the phenomenal junior guard Zach Sales with 20 as well. And there was one point in that game, man. You said it. We're watching in the car. They going back and forth.
Yes.
Brian to come down and knock down a 3. Sales come back. Hit a 3. Brian come down, get to the cup. Off balance layup, good. Come down, Sales mid-range, bang. I mean, just going back and forth. Man, I wish I could have been a fly on that wall.
Yeah, we talked about it though. Like that's what we expected from those players. That's what we expected from those programs. That's what we expected from those coaches. And just as entertaining as the game was, those coaches they were both getting it on the sideline. like you could tell they are basketball people.
Yeah.
But now that was definitely a show. And let me look into my crystal ball. I want to go first week of March next year. But I want this to be the regional championship game. I would love that to be the regional championship game. So Westwood, I don't know
Quite.
how everything shakes up after realignment,
Yeah.
but if it stays the same, Westwood wins district. This can be a
Westwood versus Kountze.
Whew.
Winner goes to state. Coach Bryant can take his first trip, or Coach Jew can go back home.
Hey.
Man. Hey, shout out, salute to both programs. Westwood making history this year. First time they've won that many playoff games and made it back to the regional tournament. Kountze doing what Kountze does, 35 wins on the year, man. That's incredible. That's extremely hard to do.
Kountze did end up winning that game in overtime, 80-77. I thought that game might be played in the 80s or 90s. It was 80s to 70s, but 80-77. And you almost feel like it was so much emotion put into that semifinal game, so much energy exerted. They came out, and it was all Hitchcock.
Yes,
ended up losing to Hitchcock. And Hitchcock, who's the number one team in the state, not
for
taking anything away from them in their program.
Right. Defending champs.
Defending champs. A lot of people had got them going back and win it again this year. They did take care of the Kountze Lions and ended their season in the regional finals. But once again, hats off to Coach Jew and what y'all are doing down there with that Kountze Lions program. And can't wait to we'll see them down in San Antonio. So can't wait to sit down. Stay tuned. We got some exciting news at the end of this podcast based on that. So stay tuned.
And I will say, we did get those picks right in this region as well.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to 4A Region 3.
Woo!
In the words of Coach Sigler himself, woo! My God, man, what? And this is where we went on Friday night, and we got to witness some really, really high level basketball and some amazing players. We had 4-star guys all over the floor. You got Memphis commits. You got Colorado football commits going up there to play with Coach Prime. I mean, it was athletes all over the place. And man, these games did not disappoint. From opening tip, Silsbee, you can just tell on a different level this year.
Yeah. And we talked about it. They had a thing on their mind, and that was revenge. And we coming to get what's ours. Our first time being able to see them in person this year, actually playing. We saw them out scouting a couple of weeks ago when Hampshire Fournette played center. But first time seeing them in person, you hear about Harris. You hear about the athleticism.
It's different to see it, though.
You hear about all of these players that they got. But man.
It's different to see it.
Hey, them some pros. Them some pros.
That's the first question he asked.
In their respective sports, we saw pros on the court that night.
Yes, sir. A whole slew of them. Man. And they did not disappoint, like we said. We won't stay there too long. Silsbee went ahead and took care of Wheatley. And then in the nightcap, the game that we went to see.
Pressure.
Chapel Hill from East Texas versus Washington. And, man, we've seen Chapel Hill a couple times this year. We've seen the pressure that they apply to people. Down 20 points, down 18 points, playing with passion, playing with heart, playing with grit, and coming back and winning games and putting pressure on people. But, man, Washington, oh, my God. That's a different level of pressure.
Yeah. You had mentioned a couple times that Chapel Hill's missing a player. And you talked about their depth. And I think it finally showed.
Yeah, it caught up to him.
It finally caught up to him. Houston, Washington, let's say this. Like, they ain't no slouch. So we ain't going to say just Chapel Hill went out and just didn't do anything. You got Houston, Washington, who basically gave Faith family all that they wanted last year. With a chance to knock off that perennial power. But Chapel Hill, they were worried about Chapel Hill. Those coaches and fans saw them come out.
You gotta be, man. With all that size that they have.
You got 6'6", you got guards. They're like, okay, we got to come on and play. And play they did. They got out. That's probably the most aggressive team I've seen pressing in a long time. I can't quantify it and put a number of years on it, but from start to finish, from baseline to baseline, they are in your shirt. They got length. They've got athleticism. They, obviously, they're well coached in it because you saw the rotations and the scrambling and the deflections. They forced 22 turnovers in the first half. And you could just see that it kind of laid on the Bulldogs, but they had a couple highlight plays and highlight performances too.
Yes, sir.
So you want to talk about those?
All right, go check out the TikTok. You'll see putting the guy in the rim. He caught him a body. Number
5'10" guard,
5'10", going to play football at the SFA for a reason, and he showed that reason because he's extremely explosive.
Mr. Mayfield,
Javen Mayfield. His daddy was a bad boy, and now he's putting on for the Bulldogs as well. So salute to Javen Mayfield, man. That was definitely a SportsCenter top 10 nominee because we talked about how athletic and quick Washington was, and he put a guy in the rim. And then a couple of possessions earlier, threw a lob to his partner in crime. So I mean, they got theirs as well.
Yeah, Mr. Kelly, I think he ended up with a double-double.
Cam Kelly did.
So good performances by Chapel Hill. Great season to the District 17 4A champions. They'll be moving out of the district with center. I know they both real upset about that. But hats off to the great year that they had and the run at the playoffs with the comebacks, down 20 in the round before and come back and win that game. Everybody counted them out at different times of the season, but they kept a belief in themselves. And Coach Johnson did a great job keeping his guys locked in and keeping them committed. And the fruits of their labor was another regional tournament berth.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, we couldn't stay, but the thing we all kept saying, we want to stay. We want to stay. We wish we could stay, but we had prior obligations. And man, we missed it.
Nah, you missed it. I went back and watched it.
Oh, I missed it. I missed it. I got to go watch it. Coach Sigler, I got to go watch it.
I woke up early this morning to watch that one. And man, that back and forth all night. Key plays here, key plays there. Athleticism, people on the rim, putbacks. Not huge three-pointers made on both ends. It was just that's a game that you want to be a part of. That's a game that you, as a coach, as a player, them the ones you dream about. Of course, this is the third time that these two have matched up in the last 3 years. They split the first two at regionals, and Silsbee got their lick back this year. And Coach, he told us last night, though. He told us when we were down there that those guys have their eyes on the prize. And if you know anything about the Silsbee community, one thing that they're really laying their hat on is that these are homegrown kids. That's what they keep saying. These homegrown kids, and they want it. And not only are they hungry for it, but they have something bigger that they're playing for. They lost 2 young men over the past couple of years, and if you follow them at all, you can see that they always mention them in their tweets, in their interviews. And so, like I said, they're playing for something bigger, and they showed that on Friday night. They needed all of that help to get past the high-flying Washington team.
What do you say? We run like cheetahs, we fly like eagles.
Pressure.
So yeah, but we mentioned Jared Harris, who's going to Memphis by name, but I think the motor to that team is Mr. Draylon Miller. My goodness, on both ends of the court.
Yeah.
And you look at him, and that young man yoked up.
You can tell he's going to play football.
That man is yoked up, but
prime time, you got you one, baby.
He can handle the ball with the best of them. He can finish with the best of them. He defends the best player on the opposite end. Him and Botley out there on the perimeter defensively.
That's who changed the game.
Mr.
On Saturday.
Botley, you got the two, but if you can have that third piece,
there's one.
You got something special. And Botley brought that for them, and the Silsbee Tigers and Center Texas native. Coach Joe Sigler is going back to San Antonio for a chance at redemption. We coined this the redemption tour for them.
There it is.
They got Washington, And a few years ago, y'all might remember they also had a chance to beat
Nobody
Faith
thought
Family.
they had a shot.
No, nobody. Not even me, Coach. I apologize.
Well,
Not
you
even
look out
me.
there, Faith Family,
My-
6'5" point guard, 6'6" shooting guard, 6'8", 6'9", and 6'11" center. And Silsbee walk out there with Harris as their tallest player.
Right.
I mean,
and young.
and
They were
babies.
young then.
They were babies.
Young. And so
they came to
now
play.
it's a redemption tour.
Go get it.
They play. I think they play Randall in the semifinal, who's also playing for something special. So we got two communities that's playing for something bigger than themselves. We'll get to our picks later on, but Silsbee made it down to San Antonio.